What's the cost to your organisation if your systems aren't running? Today we're going to talk a little bit about high availability and disaster recovery, which is all around this topic. Now, depending on how valuable it is or what the cost is to a system being down, justifies the cost in or the investment in a strategy to put it right. So we'll just talk about the issue a little bit. So ultimately, in the cloud, as we all are these days, the cloud is just someone else's computers. And your bit of software or your application is just running on one or more computers in a data center, in a region somewhere. So when we look at this in the whole, the first thing we want to avoid is that we don't want any single points of failure. Because if there's just one thing that your application depends on, and then that goes, you've lost it. So we always have redundancy, or we try to build in redundancy. So for example, in our applications, we can create, that's why web farms have pools of web servers. So if one of them goes, the other ones can take over. Similarly, in an Azure region may have multiple data centers. So actually, you've got redundancy between data centers. And then some of the services we use, such as storage services, can be zone redundant. So we can actually make sure that when we say store this thing, it will actually store it. Not only will it store it on a computer, or more than one computer, but more than one computer in more than one data center that are in physically different buildings, so that if one of them lost its power or one of them lost its fiber optic cables, it doesn't matter, you've still got it somewhere else. But what if that whole region went? Then you might want to say, well, actually, I want my data in more than one region. And that's where things start to get complicated. And that's where you only do this really for your most important applications. Things are also complicated. So for example, if we've got UK South, that's got 3 data centers in it. But if you say, okay, I'll fail over to UK West, that's only got 1. So not everything works in the same way across different regions. So we need to allow for that. But also, if we look at the traffic coming in, somehow you have to load balance that traffic so that you can either go to this region, or you can go to this region, or you can do both. So depending on what you need to do, there are different strategies. Do you need a cold standby? In other words, if this goes down, can you bring this up from cold and then start working with it? Is that all right? Or do you need a warm standby? You need to have this ready to go, but it's just not being used right now. But if you pull the switch, it's there. Or is it a hot standby? You're using both of them all the time, because then you know that no matter what happens, everything is there straight away. That's your really critical processes. That's the stuff that's really customer impacting or really cost impacting. That's often expressed in something called RTO, or recovery time objective. How long does it take me to recover? Do I need to recover in a millisecond, or is sometime tomorrow afternoon okay? There's a big impact on cost on these, and it depends on how valuable that is. Similarly, there's something we call RPO, or recovery point objective. In other words, if this goes down, how much do I lose? How much data do I lose? Do I lose the last millisecond of data, or do I lose the last week? It's like if you do weekly backups and they're sitting on the same server and once a week you take the tapes out, you could lose a whole week. That's not good. The same things apply in the cloud. What is it? How much data are you willing to lose in your recovery point objective? And if that is 0, then you've got to pay really close attention to how you actually make sure that data is replicating in real time between different places. And that has a performance implication, has a cost implication. So just as a general overview of high availability and disaster recovery, big things to bear in mind are, have multiple things in multiple data centers or multiple regions. The hotter your standby, the less time it takes to recover, and the less data you lose. The costs are likely to go up, so make sure you invest in the things appropriate for what that value is to your business.